Now we'll move on to a very thought-provoking presentation on electricity for all by Sri Shantanu Dikshit from the Prayas Energy Group.
Before beginning, very briefly about Prayas, it's a research-based think tank based in Pune. Our core area of work has been looking at electricity policies and recently looking at climate change related issues that the energy sector has to deal with. So in this presentation, I want to cover essentially three aspects. First is I will touch upon household electrification, remind us of that national commitment. Why as of now we are unable to ensure 24/7 supply to rural households. What are the structural impediments, what are structural disincentives for distribution companies, that we will discuss. And then we will discuss one approach that we feel could help us to overcome this structural disincentive and move towards our objective of electricity for all. We all know that in modern era, life without electricity cannot be envisaged. But going beyond this ethical and equity argument, I think there is a strong economical argument, economical need to ensure that electricity is really available 24/7 in the rural areas, because then that electricity infrastructure will lead to development of economic activities, and that will be a major step in our overall national goal of bringing this large number of people out of poverty. So it should be seen essentially as an investment to catalyze development. As we'll see in the next chart, there is very strong correlation we can see in the level of electrification across different countries and their HDI, Human Development Index. So what are the lessons if we look at the international experience and the literature about rural electrification? One key lesson that we find is if rural electrification has to be really successful, then there has to be concerted and well coordinated drive which would last from 5 to 10 years in different countries. Second important lesson is supply is as important as network. And the third important lesson is when electricity is provided, maybe the starting point is not to look at productive end use. Just to recap, the National Electricity Policy 2005 has set ourselves this task that we want to ensure electrification of all households, and we want to ensure minimum lifeline consumption of 1 unit per household per day as a merit good by 2012. But what does it mean? If you look at numbers, at least 30 crore population is still not able to achieve this target of at least 1 unit consumption a day. This again I won't go into too much detail, but this again shows that if you look at the Indian context, again there is strong correlation between levels of electrification and per capita state domestic products. Essentially, if you look at across different states, 5 states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Orissa and West Bengal. So these 5 states account for more than 75% of our non-electrified households. So if you have to ensure electricity for all, there are essentially 3 components that we need to look at. The first component is network and infrastructure development, actually ensuring that lines are able to connect these households to the grid. So that's the first task which RGVY has done. Second component is how are we going to ensure operation and maintenance of this infrastructure that is created, and how can we ensure actual supply of power to these households. Coming to RGVY, the major effort was to expand the grid and ensure that actually wires are available to connect to these households. The scheme broadly was providing 90% capital subsidy, 10% was the loan component, and it is estimated that it will entail an overall investment of about 70,000 crore just for expanding the network. And in that investment, the understanding was and the expectation from states was that the distribution companies and states will ensure at least 6 to 8 hours of supply to these newly connected households. But what is the current status? There has been a lot of debate and criticism about time and cost overruns. There are quality concerns about the network. At the same time, we also need to look at the achievements. I think it is one of the very large programs which has led to 1.8 crore households have been provided connections with. Village electrification, as per new definition, has increased to 92%. So, but the key challenge that now we have to address is how to ensure adequate hours of supply on these rural feeders. That's the key challenge we need to deal with. This is a very simple table, I think, that explains the entire story. If we look at the marginal power purchase cost of distribution companies, that is in the range of 3.5 rupees per unit. You add to that distribution losses, then distribution margin of 1 rupee per unit. So total cost of supply for these distribution companies is in the range of 5.4 rupees per unit. At the most, these poor households will be able to pay at the rate of 1.5 rupees per unit. So essentially, each unit that these distribution companies sell to newly electrified households, distribution companies make a loss of around 4 rupees per unit. So it's a loss-making proposition, and that's the structural disincentive that the distribution companies have to address. So what we have tried to look at what will be the impact on tariff of these different issues of electrification. So this shows what is the tariff impact, to what extent the tariff has to be. We have to recover past losses, accumulated losses of these distribution utilities. These are past losses. Current year also they are making huge losses. So to recover these losses itself, you need to increase tariff by another 20 to 30% for different states. And on top of that will be the tariff impact required to meet or to overcome the loss of this structural disincentive of selling electricity to newly electrified households. On top of that, we have this issue of open access. If large consumers go away from the grid, again that's going to increase financial stress for these utilities, because HT average billing rates are much higher than LT billing rates. So the issue of open access will further aggravate this financial crisis for distribution utilities. So in this scenario, what will be the distribution companies' approach? So what they will do, most likely they will reduce supply hours on rural feeders so that they can better manage their losses. And the result of this will be the RGVY investment of about 70,000 crore will not yield expected results. And hence, we are suggesting that we need to have a relook at the RGVVY. And from this perspective, we feel that the restructured RGVY can have two components. The first component is to have a structural arrangement whereby distribution utilities are encouraged to provide more hours of supply, and simultaneously enable distribution companies to better manage agricultural load. So there could be three ways in which we can address the structural disincentive to the distribution utilities. First option could be to have direct cash transfers to consumers, and then utilities could be asked to increase the tariff for electricity. Second option could be to have cash transfer through budgetary support to distribution companies. And the third option is to transfer low cost power to distribution companies. So the first is about cash transfers. I think we will all agree that the systems are not yet established. Though we are moving fast in that direction, it's still going to take some time. As of now, we don't have the implementation experience, so we'll have to go through that process. So it's going to take some time. And there, we also need to be conscious that we need to avoid exclusion errors and be better able to target. Another disadvantage we think of this scheme could be it will be very difficult to withdraw this subsidy in a time-bound manner. Coming to direct cash transfer to distribution companies, again we feel that it will be difficult to ensure accountability of distribution companies. Secondly, that will also put enormous burden on distribution companies to ensure that they need to actually buy electricity from market at a very optimum rate. So we feel that it's not really appropriate just to go for these two options. We also need to consider third option, that is to look at transfer of low cost power to distribution companies. And this is the essence of the proposal that we are making. So essentially the scheme would operate something like this. The central government can establish a special purpose vehicle, that SPV can purchase power from open market through different generators or developers at a market determined rate, and that power could be sold in return through a back-to-back PPA arrangement with the distribution company at 2.5 rupees per unit. There could be different options of actually procuring power from open market. One option we are suggesting is the GOI can through this SPV route enter the market and solicit proposals based on competitive bidding guidelines, and that could be one way of discovering what is the rate at which power could be made available. Assuming that if the power is available through this route at 3.5 rupees per unit, then we'll come to this issue next, that we require about 14 gigawatt power to achieve zero load shedding for about 70 million of our population. And for that the central government will have to compensate the SPV to the tune of 10,500 crores per year. The other option could be to procure power through UMPP like approach like Sasan or Tilaiya, where the price discovered has been quite attractive, has been in the range of 2.5 rupees per unit. So the advantage of this option would be that there will not be any direct fiscal implication for the central government. So there could be different options that we can consider for procuring power, but the objective should be to make power available to DISCOMs at 2.5 rupees per unit. So how the scheme will work? If power equivalent to peak load of these rural households at 200 watts, then at 85% PLF, that power will generate about 4 units in a day, out of which 1 unit will qualify as or merit subsidy for these households, and 3 additional units will be available to the distribution company for sale to other consumers. So essentially, if this scheme is put in place, that power is made available at 2.5 rupees and distribution companies have these 3 extra units to recover some additional revenue, then as you can see from the second last line, That will lead to a surplus of about 2.4 rupees per unit for the distribution company. And the structural disincentive that we talked about, can greatly reduce. It can come down from about 4 rupees to about 20 paise. Now the next question that we have to look at is what could be the basis for allocating power to different states. So there we are thinking of two options. The first option could be identify districts, or the second option could be look at removing the imbalance in allocation of central sector allocation to different states. If you look at how much central allocation has been done to different states. So in whichever option we choose for allocation of power to different states, the numbers that turn out to be are very similar. So what will be the outcome if this approach is adopted? If we are able to make available these 14,000 megawatts for this scheme, then the fiscal burden on central government would be about 10,500 crores per year, and it will have a very strong accountability based contractual arrangement. And what will be benefits of this approach? As per our calculation, it shows that about 75 million households will benefit because of this. That will be about 25% of our population will be able to get 24/7 availability of power. Moreover, it will also incentivize supply to other productive load in those regions. And third option benefit we see is it will deepen national electricity market. The question comes that this new capacity will take time to come. What do we do till then? So we need to have an approach which we can implement immediately or within the next 1 or 2 years. So two options we can consider for that. First option is to look at unallocated share of the NTPC or the central sector share. Currently about 5,500 megawatt is the unallocated share, out of which maybe 1,500 megawatt is already tied up through National Solar Mission or some other categories. But still that leaves at least 4,000 megawatts for us to allocate on the basis of this scheme. The second option could be we can use this opportunity to solicit power from projects which are at advanced stage of completion, but which have not tied up power through PPAs and which are stuck because of various reasons, including their inability to find credit-worthy buyers or buyers who are willing to pay the required tariff. So we can solicit power through the competitive bidding process from these projects, and then again our estimate shows that at least 5 to 7,000 megawatts can come online through this route in the next couple of years. So there are possibilities that we can consider in the immediate scenario also. We don't have to wait for 5 or 7 years to implement this scheme. So I will stop here and thank you very much.
Very good. The subject that you have chosen is very, very important. First of all, one has to see that my senior colleague in the assembly, in the day-to-day politics, Mr. N.D. Patil, see, he has said that in 2005 the UPA government has given a new scheme to this country to electrify about 1,15,000 villages by 2012. You should understand that till 2005, no government in this country thought of to give electricity to the villages as our scheme is. Scheme was announced in 2005 and started in 2006. And from 2006 till today, the total 1,15,000 villages, we have covered of 1,02,000 villages so far. It's not a small work. In 9th plan, we planned for 42,000 megawatt. 10th plan, we could targeted is 42,000 megawatt, but we could do only 21,000 megawatt. When during 9th plan and 10th plan, our capacity addition had not gone beyond 22,000 megawatt. But the Planning Commission and country gave us to our department a target of 78,000 crores. But it was challenged. In 2005, the Government of India, UPA government, has given assurance to this country that by 2012 will give power to all. So we started working in the department, not only proper monitoring, but we used to plan in such a heavy way, a large way, but there were no factories of equipment to supply the power supply for the ministry. Only we were depending on Vale. But today there are 7 factories like Vale have come in this country. And I must tell you the capacity addition that what we have done during last 6 years. 64,000 megawatt has been added in this country. Every year, almost every year, 10,000 megawatt. Today, you don't know, in 12 plan work has been going for last 2 years. And 80,000 megawatt is under construction as on today. Today also, I must tell you, in many places, in Himachal, Uttarakhand, some places of Uttar Pradesh, this distribution has been taken by the self-help group ladies. And our result is very good. It is becoming very profitable. It should be like this. You and the NGOs and the public should not be separate. It should be joint feder. We must work together. It is your government. It should be regular interaction with such NGOs, and I am prepared to accept these proposals to have a regular interaction with you. I wish you best of luck, good luck to you. Thank you. Jai Hind.